Hey everyone, I'm Jordan, and I'm going to show you how to build an AI chatbot in Drupal with no code. Let's get started. First, obviously, we need a Drupal project. I'm going to install a fresh one right here. And this is demo 4. So, luckily, Composer already has everything in the cache. So it's a very fast download. Now we have our demo 4, and next thing we need to do is set up a local environment. There are lots of choices. I prefer DDEV. So we're going to get started with DDEV. One thing I like about DDEV is it's good at guessing what the value should be. So we're just going to accept the defaults all the way down. And next command is DDEV start. This should also work pretty quickly because I already have Docker running in my local environment. Again, you don't need to use Docker. There are alternatives, but Docker is Docker, and I haven't been too turned off by their recent moves to try to monetize their own service. I still manage to use it for free for personal use. So no objections, but your mileage may vary. All right, now we have a demo site ready to go. Here it is. We're going to install this really quickly. One key thing is I'm going to use the demo content. This is really important because a good chatbot has content that it can refer to. And if I start a blank Drupal site, then I don't have any content. So luckily, Drupal comes with demo content built in, and we're going to take advantage of that right now. While that's running, we now have DDEV running, so we can do DDEV Composer, and what we need is to require Drush. We're going to need that very much so in a minute. So we're going to let that download, and while that downloads, I'm going to put in some basic information here. I'm going to let Chrome choose a password for me. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off email notifications because this is just a demo. And so I don't want the site emailing me on a regular basis, letting me know that there's updates available. Cool. That is all running. Drush is installed. What else do we need to do? Oh, we need to do something very important here. Okay, our site is up, and it's a site with recipes, which is great because that's a lot of good content that we're going to index in a minute, and I'll show you how. But the first thing before we do that is we need to modify our composer. And the reason we need to do that is specifically we need to modify our stability to dev. That means we're going to accept packages that don't have a stable release. That's a necessary step because in this AI constellation, not everything has a stable release. The good news is the next step is really easy. We're going to use a recipe. This isn't a food recipe like on our website. This is the new thing, a Drupal recipe. Recipes are collections of modules and configuration that can do something useful on your site. And if we check out the Drupal recipes cookbook, we're going to find one down here near the bottom, right, for AI. This is the AI chatbot recipe. And the whole idea here is it takes a constellation of modules that you're going to need, and it downloads and installs them for you. The instructions are really easy. We start with composer require. And remember, we're using DDEV, so we have to wrap this command in DDEV, composer require, and then the recipe. And that's going to trigger Composer to download all the modules that we need. What's in here? We've got the AI module, we've got the key module, search API modules in here, so useful stuff. Okay. Now that we've installed the recipe, need to tell Drush to clear caches. We're doing this because we just installed all these modules, but Drupal doesn't realize that they're there yet. Now it does. Okay, good. So the next step is easy. We need to, it's important to note, are installed in the recipes folder, recipes directory. This is outside of the web root. It's important because you need to know where they are when you run the drush command. And so we need to tell it to back out one level and then go inside the recipes directory and then run the recipe. Here we go. And now it works, just like that. Next step is to get API keys. We need 2 of them. We need OpenAI and we need Pinecone. You can see I've done this a few times in OpenAI already. That's not a problem. We're going to create a new one. This is demo 4. Now, unfortunately, the web page actually shows my secret, so I'm going to have to blur that out. No peeking. But I can grab that, bring it back into Umami, and go into configuration. And in particular, we're going to create a key. This is it. This is OpenAI. And then we're going to paste the value down there. No peeking. And that's it. Now we have a key for OpenAI. Now we need to configure the OpenAI module. Go back to configuration. That's right down under provider settings. So OpenAI is the provider we're using. And we can select the OpenAI key, piece of cake. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is we need a vector database. We're going to use Pinecone just because they're a good option. There are alternatives. I'm not saying you have to use Pinecone, but they're a good option and they're one that I recommend. We're going to create an API key here too. Luckily, Pinecone's a little smarter. They don't actually display the key, they just allow you to copy it. So now I can go back and we need to create a second key here for Pinecone. I do that right now. And we're going to paste that in, no peeking. All right, and now we have to configure Pinecone AI just like we did with OpenAI. So OpenAI was in provider, but Pinecone is a vector database, so that's going to be in vector DB settings, right? Here we go. We're going to select the Pinecone key, and that's it. We've now configured our APIs for both OpenAI and Pinecone. Are we done? No. But what we are ready to do is we're ready to set up this vector database. So we created the API key, but now what we need to do is create an index here. So we're going to name this one Demo 4, and this is important. You have to choose your embedding model. And the key is the embedding model has to match what you do on the Drupal side. So there's not all of these options work. The Microsoft embedding model isn't supported by the Drupal module. In fact, neither is the Pinecone model. What is supported is OpenAI text embedding, 3, 2, or something else. It's not one. But it doesn't matter. The point is this one is supported, so this is the one we're selecting, text embedding 3 large from OpenAI. And there are more options down here. We don't have to worry about them. We can just create index. This takes a matter of seconds. And here we go. We have our demo for index ready to go. Now we need to tell Drupal about it. The good news is if you've ever set up a search engine in Drupal before or an index, this will be easy because we're using the search API. This is the same module that you use if you're using Solr or Elasticsearch or any other number of options. So what we're doing is we're going to add a server. This is our Pinecone server. We have to select the embeddings engine, which I talked about before, and I mentioned that there's only a few options. Sorry, it's not 3 or 2, it's 3 large, 3 small, or Ada, which is an older model. We already picked 3 large, so that's the one we have to pick on this side too. Tokenizer, a lot of options here. Doesn't really matter. You can leave that alone. Vector database, this definitely matters. We're going to select the Pinecone database. And then that opens up new options. Which database? We're going to select Demo 4. If you select the wrong database, so for example, if I selected the database from Demo 2, it would mess things up because that was a different demonstration with different content in it. Namespace doesn't matter. We're just going to call this Demo 4 again. Other options down here, you can leave these alone unless you know what you're doing. Right now we're going to save. Boom. Able to reach Pinecone. Perfect. Pardon me. I'm going to interrupt myself really quick. I'm still player 1, but this video was so difficult to record that I actually had to move to a different day to finish recording. Here's why. While I was, between the time that I originally gave this presentation at Stanford and when I recorded it, the modules shifted and some of the things that worked before no longer worked. So here I am with a correct set of instructions. Ready? Let's do it. We've got our server set up. We already took a look at that. Able to reach Pinecone. Very good. What do we do when we have a server using Search API? We have to add an index. So that's what we're going to do right now. We can call this one Demo 4. And this is actually the second or third time I've done this. So we'll call this Demo 4 too. And all right, what's the important thing to know here? Data sources. In our case, we're going to be adding content. Have to be careful down here as well. What kind of content? Well, in our case, recipes, because that's what we have. We have a recipe blog. Translations, we're not going to worry about. Indexing order, we also need to worry about. Server, Pinecone enabled, yes. This is important. Description, doesn't really matter. We're going to leave that blank. Save and add fields. This is going to be important, what comes next. For a vector database, we're not indexing all the fields. In fact, this is true for a lot of different types of databases, but especially in this case. It's only going to know the fields that we select right now. So let's take a look. Authored by the author of the recipe probably doesn't matter in this case, so we're going to skip that. We're going to skip the first few. Cooking time, that might matter. Default revisions, translations, no. Difficulty, yes. Directions, definitely yes. Ingredients, yes. Images we don't need for this use. Number of servings might be useful, so yes. Not super useful, but maybe a little useful. Preparation time, yes. Category, that's definitely going to be useful if we want to filter our results in any way. Or ask for a list of recipes in a certain category. What else in here? The rest of these don't look interesting, so we're going to click Done. Great. Now we have our list of recipes. This is a key thing to consider. Once you have your list of fields, you have to decide which one is your main content. For us, that's easy. That's going to be directions. Whatever is in the directions is the meat of the recipe, no pun intended. What else do we have? Cooking time. That's going to be contextual content. It's not the main content, but it's relevant to what we're doing here. Difficulty. We're going to call that a filterable attribute. We can tell the AI, only give me easy recipes, for example. Ingredients, contextual. Number of servings, contextual. Preparation time, let's say that's a filterable attribute. And recipe category, definitely a filterable attribute. Okay, good enough. We're going to save changes. And what's it telling us? Changes have been successfully saved. Good. All content was scheduled for re-indexing. Yes. This is another really important point. If you don't index your data, the vector database doesn't know it exists. And therefore, your AI doesn't know it exists. Just because it's already in your Drupal relational database doesn't mean anything, not in this context. So, what do we have? We have an index status. We have an empty progress bar. Let's fill that now. We're going to start indexing all of our options, but we're not going to do 50 at a time. We only have 20 to index, but the point I'm trying to make is when you index this type of content, it's a slow process. So we're going to start now. And I'm going to cut the video and come back when this is done. And we're back. As you can see, we now have a fully indexed set of content. What's next? We are going to go back into our configuration and we are going to create an AI assistant. We don't have any yet, that's fine. I'm going to add one right now. I'm going to call it Recipe Assistant. Now, this is part of the key of building an AI chatbot is when you give instructions, you're doing it in plain English. You're not writing code. I promise no code, and this is what I mean by that. But the instructions you give the AI are important because it's going to interpret those and then try to follow them. So what are we going to tell it? Please make recommendations based on the recipes in the collection. If you can't find one, recommend something similar. Never use Markdown. Now, okay, this last bit that I added is, I'm calling this fine-tuning. What's fine-tuning? Fine-tuning is a really important concept, but it's actually very simple to understand. Fine-tuning is when you take your existing set of instructions and modify them to make them better. What's better? Better means more likely to give the result you are looking for. What are you looking for? You're looking for something that's relevant, high quality, on topic. And the better instructions you give, the better you're going to get. But the only way to get there is through experimentation. And that process is known as fine-tuning. So I've done this before, and I know, tell it, always use HTML formatting. Okay, fine. What else can we do? Enable RAG actions. Great. We're going to select the database. And here we have another description. This is important as well. This is a of recipes. This should be your primary resource for finding recipes. Okay, fine. It says here an AI might use this for choosing where to search. Yes, it might. How do we make it more convincing? Well, or rather, the other way around, how do we make the AI less picky about choosing results from this collection? And the answer is you reduce the threshold. It's got to be somewhere between 0 and 1. We're going to take it down from, the default is 0.6. We're going to bring it all the way down to 0.1. This just means it's more likely to accept the results from this database. It's not guaranteed, but it's more likely. All right, what else are we going to change? RAG context mode. Chunks doesn't work. Why not? I don't know. It's a bug. It's being looked at, but it hasn't been fixed yet. So we're going to use aggregated and rendered entities. As soon as we choose that, here comes another option. The view mode. If you're familiar with Drupal, this set of options should be familiar. We can leave it alone, to be honest. Full content is probably a good option. Your mileage may vary. RAG LLM agent. Here's another spot where the instructions are important and really matter. Here's what I'm going to put in. You are a friendly chatbot wants to share recipes. Please answer recipe questions based on the notable recipes in the context. You can't find a recipe. It can offer something similar from the available context. Okay, question. Now, this is not code, but it's close. This is a token, and how do I know? Because it's in the instructions under the field. Now, that's the question, and we're going to separate it. And then down here, we get context. And that is what that is known as. We're putting in these separators just so it knows that below here is the list of recipes that are available. What else do we need to change here? Administrative description might get used. Probably not, but it might. AI RAG Chatbot that relies on collection of recipes. Master queries. Okay. What else is down here? The AI provider, the model. There's a lot of options here. If you don't know what you're doing, you can leave them alone. The defaults are all pretty good. We're going to save. What do we have now? We have a recipe assistant. Are we done yet? No. But we're getting there. That's the good news. The next step is to expose this assistant so that our users can access it. That's easy. We're going to go to structure. We're going to go to block layout. If you're familiar with Drupal, this should all be pretty familiar to you. The way Drupal works is you pick a theme, in our case the umami theme, and then that theme gives you regions on the page. And then in each one of these regions, we're going to put blocks. So, what region are we going to choose? Well, there's a bunch of them. We're just going to scroll down to the bottom and stick it in the bottom. It doesn't really matter. But here we go. We're going to use the AI chatbot. There's two options here. We're not going to get into the AI deep chatbot. All I can tell you is this one seems to work better for me. Your mileage may vary. We're going to call this recipe chatbot. And we're going to change this name here. It's going to have an icon. First message. Can I recommend a recipe? Okay, what else do we want to change? Oh, we said before, don't give us Markdown, give us HTML. So let's tell it that we're expecting HTML. What else do we need? Language, doesn't matter. Pages, responses, roles. These are all Drupal options that should be familiar to you if you're used to using Drupal. Used to using Drupal blocks. We don't actually have to change any of them. We're just going to save block right now. There it is. And the bottom, we're going to click the Save Blocks button again. Block settings have been updated. Great. Back to the site. And now, here's our recipe site. In the corner is our recipe chatbot. That's it. Now, all that's left is to test it. Let's do that now. We're going to open it up. Hello, can I recommend a recipe? Yes, please. Can you recommend a recipe for borscht? And this may or may not work. Let's find out. It's thinking for a minute. This is the LLM reading the vector database, trying to decide if it can find a good related recipe. And it gave us something. Yes, delightful recipe for borscht with pork ribs, which is this recipe right here. And there's the answer. What do? We spun up a version of Drupal with demo content in our local environment. We added a vector database and API keys for OpenAI and Pinecone. We indexed our content with the vector database. We connected a RAG chatbot to the database that we had created, and we exposed this chatbot in a block on a Drupal page. Then we tested it and got a delightful recipe for borscht with pork ribs. I don't know if you're interested in trying it out at home, but if you are, personally, I prefer with sour cream, not pork. Your mileage may vary.